My stepfather tried to sabotage my husband's career, so I exposed his true colors. Now he's threatening to destroy our family. I, Sarah, 32F, never had a great relationship with my father-in-law, Frank, 65M. When I married his son, Tom, 34M, 5 years ago, Frank made it clear he didn't approve of me. He always thought Tom should marry someone from a wealthy family, not a middle-class girl like me who worked as a hairstylist. Despite Frank's disapproval, Tom and I were happy. We both worked hard, Tom as an accountant and me at a local salon. About 2 years into our marriage, I decided to take a risk and open my own hair salon. It was a dream I'd had since I was young, and Tom fully supported me. I poured my heart and soul into my new business. It was tough at first, but slowly, I built up a loyal clientele. By the end of the first year, I was doing well enough to hire 2 more stylists. Tom was incredibly proud of me, but Frank? Well, that's when things really went downhill. Frank couldn't stand the fact that I was becoming successful. He started making snide comments whenever we saw him, which was thankfully only at family gatherings every few months. He'd say things like, "Oh, still playing with hair, Sarah? When are you going to get a real job?" Or "I guess some people are content with small-time success." I tried to ignore his comments, but they hurt. Tom would defend me, which only made Frank angrier. He'd tell Tom that he was whipped and that a real man wouldn't let his wife play entrepreneur. Last Thanksgiving, things came to a head. We were having dinner at Frank's house, along with Tom's sister Emily, 30F, and her husband Jake, 32M. Frank had a few drinks and started in on me again. He asked loudly across the table, "So, Sarah, how much longer do you think you can keep that little shop of yours running? I bet it'll be closed by Christmas." I was about to respond when Tom's mom, Linda, 63F, spoke up. "Frank, that's enough. Sarah's business is doing well, and we're proud of her." I was touched by her support, as Linda had always been kind to me, even if she was often overshadowed by Frank's louder personality. Frank scoffed and said, "Well, we'll see about that. Maybe if she spent less time on her hair and more time learning how to run a real business, she might have a chance." The rest of the dinner was tense, and we left early. On the drive home, Tom apologized for his father's behavior, but I assured him it wasn't his fault. I was used to Frank's attitude by now. A week later, I noticed something odd at the salon. We had a string of canceled appointments, all from new clients. At first, I thought it was just bad luck, but then one of my regular clients mentioned something strange. She said she'd tried to recommend us to a friend, but the friend said she'd heard our salon was closing soon. I was baffled. Where would anyone get that idea? We were doing better than ever. I started digging, calling some of the canceled appointments. What I discovered left me shocked and furious. It turned out that someone had been calling potential clients, posing as a staff member from our salon. They were telling people that we were closing soon due to financial troubles and that they should cancel their appointments. Some were even told that I was involved in some kind of fraud. I couldn't believe it. Who would do such a thing? Then I remembered Frank's words at Thanksgiving, "We'll see about that." Could he really have stooped so low? I didn't want to believe it, but I had to find out. I set up a sting operation with the help of my staff. We created a fake online profile for a potential client and booked an appointment. Then we waited to see if they would receive a call. Sure enough, the call came. One of my stylists answered, pretending to be the client. The caller, using a fake name, tried to convince her to cancel her appointment, saying all sorts of lies about the salon. But here's the kicker, we recorded the call, and despite his attempts to disguise it, I recognized Frank's voice. I was livid. This man, my father-in-law, was actively trying to destroy my business out of spite. I knew I had to confront him, but I wanted irrefutable proof first. So, I hired a private investigator to look into the phone number used for these calls. Within a week, the PI confirmed what I already knew, the number belonged to a burner phone purchased by Frank. He had evidence of Frank buying the phone and making calls from locations near our salon. Now I had a decision to make. Do I confront Frank privately? Do I tell Tom first? Or do I expose him to the whole family? I was torn. On one hand, I wanted to protect Tom from the pain of knowing what his father had done. On the other hand, I was tired of being the target of Frank's hatred. After sleepless nights and long talks with my closest friend, I decided I couldn't keep this a secret. Frank's actions weren't just hurting me, they were affecting my employees and their livelihoods. I had to stand up for myself and my business. I called a family meeting at our house, inviting Tom's parents, his sister Emily, and her husband Jake. I told them I had something important to discuss about the salon. When everyone arrived, I calmly explained the situation. I told them about the canceled appointments, the rumors of closure, and the mysterious calls. I could see the confusion and concern on their faces, everyone's except Frank's. He just looked angry. Then, I played the recording of the call. The room fell silent as Frank's voice filled the air, spewing lies about my business. When it was over, I presented the pie's evidence linking the calls to Frank. The reaction was immediate. Linda burst into tears, Emily gasped in shock, and Jake just shook his head in disbelief. Tom looked like his world had shattered. He turned to his father and asked in a broken voice, "Dad, how could you do this?" Frank's face was red with rage. He stood up, pointing at me, and yelled, "She's lying. She set this all up to turn you against me. Tom, you can't believe this gold digger over your own father." But his protests fell on deaf ears. The evidence was too strong, and frankly, I think everyone was tired of Frank's behavior towards me. Linda was the first to speak. Through her tears, she said, "Frank, I can't believe you would do something so cruel. Sarah is family. How long have you been sabotaging her?" Frank sputtered, trying to defend himself, but Emily cut him off. "Dad, this is inexcusable. Sarah has done nothing but try to be part of this family, and this is how you treat her?" Tom hadn't said a word since his initial question. He just sat there, staring at the floor. I reached out to hold his hand, and he gripped it tightly. Finally, Tom looked up at his father and said in a calm, firm voice, "You need to leave. Now. And don't contact us until you're ready to sincerely apologize and make amends for what you've done." Frank looked around the room, seeming to realize he had no allies here. Without another word, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The rest of the evening was spent in heavy discussion. Linda apologized profusely for her husband's actions, as did Emily and Jake. Tom was quiet, processing everything. I assured everyone that I didn't blame them for Frank's actions. It's been 2 weeks since that night. Frank hasn't reached out, and honestly, I'm relieved. My business is recovering from his sabotage attempts, and I'm working on repairing the damage he did to our reputation. Tom is in a tough spot. He's angry at his father but also hurt and confused. He's been supportive of me through all of this, but I know it's taking a toll on him. I stand by my decision to expose Frank's actions, but I can't help wondering, Ida, for doing it so publicly? Should I have confronted him privately first? I feel like I've driven a wedge in the family, even though I know Frank is the one truly responsible. Any thoughts or advice would be appreciated. Update 1: It's been about a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments and advice. It really helped me feel more confident in my decision to expose Frank's actions. First, let me address the most common question: how is Tom doing? Well, it's been tough. Tom has been going through a roller coaster of emotions. He's angry at his father, disappointed, and deeply hurt. There were a few nights where he just sat in silence, trying to process everything. I've been there for him as much as I can, but I also understand that this is something he needs to work through on his own to some extent. About a week after the confrontation, Frank finally reached out, to Tom, not to me. He sent a long email, full of excuses and half apologies. He claimed he was just trying to test my business acumen and that he never meant for things to go so far. He said he was worried I was taking advantage of Tom and that he was just trying to protect his son. Tom didn't respond to the email. He showed it to me, and we both agreed it wasn't a real apology. Frank was still trying to justify his actions instead of taking full responsibility. On the business front, things are looking up. After the initial shock wore off, my loyal clients rallied around the salon. Word spread about what had happened, and we actually saw an increase in bookings. People in our community wanted to show their support. It was touching and gave me renewed energy to push forward. I also decided to take legal action against Frank. After consulting with a lawyer, we sent a cease and desist letter, warning him that if he made any further attempts to interfere with my business, we would pursue more serious legal consequences. It felt good to stand up for myself and my employees in this way. Linda, Tom's mom, has been incredibly supportive through all of this. She's come by the salon a few times, both as a client and just to check in on me. She confided that she and Frank have been having problems for years, and this situation was the last straw. They're now in the process of separating, and she's considering divorce. I feel terrible that my issues with Frank have contributed to this, but Linda assures me that it's been a long time coming. Emily and Jake have also been great. They've distanced themselves from Frank and have made an effort to spend more time with Tom and me. Last weekend, we all went out for dinner, and it was nice to have a drama-free family gathering for once. As for Tom and me, this whole ordeal has actually brought us closer together. We've had many long, deep conversations about family, loyalty, and our future. Tom has made it clear that he chooses me and our life together over his father's approval. It means the world to me, even though I know it's a painful choice for him. We've also started discussing having children. We had always planned on it eventually, But this situation has made us realize how important it is to create our own family unit, one based on love and mutual respect. Frank hasn't made any further attempts to contact us or interfere with the salon. Part of me is relieved, but another part is waiting for the other shoe to drop. I can't help but feel this isn't over yet. I'm still processing everything that's happened. While I'm glad I stood up for myself, there's a part of me that feels guilty for the upheaval in Tom's family. But then I remind myself that Frank's actions caused this, not mine. Thank you all again for your support. I'll update again if anything significant happens. Update 2, it's been another month, and I'm back with another update. Things have taken an unexpected turn, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all. About 2 weeks ago, Tom received a call from his mother, Linda. Frank had been admitted to the hospital. Apparently, he'd had a minor heart attack. The doctors said it wasn't severe, but it was a wake-up call for Frank. Tom was conflicted about whether to visit his father in the hospital. After much discussion, we decided to go together. I was nervous about seeing Frank, but I wanted to support Tom. When we arrived at the hospital, Frank looked small and vulnerable in the hospital bed. It was strange seeing this man who had always seemed so imposing looking so frail. When he saw us, his eyes filled with tears. To my surprise, Frank started apologizing profusely. He said the heart attack had made him realize how stupid and petty he'd been. He admitted that his actions were driven by his own insecurities and outdated beliefs. He told us that he'd been raised to believe a man should be the sole provider for his family, and seeing me succeed had threatened his worldview. Frank also confessed that he'd been jealous of my close relationship with Tom. He felt like he was losing his son and lashed out at me instead of examining his own behavior. I was skeptical at first, but as Frank continued to talk, I could see genuine remorse in his eyes. He asked for a chance to make amends, not just with us, but with Linda, Emily, and Jake as well. Tom was emotional during the visit. I could see him struggling with the desire to forgive his father and the memory of all the hurt Frank had caused. In the end, Tom told Frank that he was willing to work on rebuilding their relationship, but it would take time and effort on Frank's part. As for me, I told Frank that while I appreciated his apology, trust would have to be earned back slowly. I made it clear that any future relationship would depend on his continued good behavior and respect for me and my business. Since that day at the hospital, things have been different. Frank was discharged a few days later, and he's been making efforts to change. He sent a formal, written apology to me about the salon incident, taking full responsibility for his actions without any excuses. He also apologized to my staff and offered to pay for an advertising campaign to help boost business even further. Linda is cautiously optimistic about Frank's change of heart. They're in counseling together, working on their issues. She's put the divorce on hold for now, wanting to see if this change is genuine and lasting. Emily and Jake have also had a reconciliation of sorts with Frank. We all met for dinner last week, and while it was a bit awkward at first, it went surprisingly well. Frank was polite and engaged, asking genuine questions about my business and our lives. Tom is still processing everything. He's happy to see his father making an effort but is understandably wary. We've had many late-night conversations about forgiveness, change, and family dynamics. It's been emotionally exhausting but also strengthening for our relationship. As for me, I'm taking things one day at a time. I appreciate Frank's efforts and I'm open to the possibility of a better relationship, but I'm also protecting myself and my business. I'm not letting my guard down completely, but I'm willing to give Frank a chance to prove that his change is genuine. The salon is doing better than ever. The community support has been overwhelming, and we're even talking about expanding to a second location. In a weird way, Frank's sabotage attempt ended up being good for business in the long run. I know this update might seem a bit anticlimactic compared to the drama of the original post, but I think real life is often like that. People are complex, situations evolve, and sometimes, there's room for growth and change. I'll post another update if anything significant happens. Thank you all again for your support and advice throughout this journey. Update 3. Hello everyone, it's been about 3 months since my last update, and I felt it was time to share the latest developments in this ongoing family saga. I'm happy to report that things have continued to improve, albeit with some bumps along the way. Frank has been consistently working on being a better person and repairing his relationships with all of us. He's been attending therapy regularly, both individually and with Linda. From what Linda has shared, he's really diving deep into his issues, confronting his outdated beliefs and insecurities. It's not been an easy journey for him, but his efforts are noticeable. About a month ago, Frank approached me with an interesting proposition. He wanted to invest in my salon's expansion. At first, I was hesitant. Given our history, the idea of mixing business with family seemed risky. However, Frank made it clear that this would be a silent investment with no involvement in day-to-day operations. He saw it as a way to make amends and support my success rather than try to control it. After lengthy discussions with Tom and consultations with my lawyer, I decided to accept Frank's investment. We drew up a clear, legally binding agreement that outlined the terms of his involvement, or lack thereof, in the business. This decision wasn't easy, but I felt it was a significant step in rebuilding trust. The expansion is now underway, and I'm excited about the possibilities. We're opening a second location in a neighboring town, which will allow us to serve more clients and create more jobs. Frank has been true to his word, providing the agreed-upon funds without trying to interfere in any business decisions. On the personal front, Tom and Frank's relationship has seen significant improvement. They've been spending more time together, often going fishing or golfing. Tom says these outings have allowed them to have honest conversations about their past issues and hopes for the future. It's heartwarming to see Tom regain the father-son relationship he thought he'd lost. Linda and Frank have made great strides in their marriage. The divorce is officially off the table, and they seem happier than I've ever seen them. Linda told me that Frank has become more attentive and communicative, qualities she had longed for throughout their marriage. Emily and Jake have also noticed the positive changes in Frank. They've been including him more in their lives, even asking him to babysit their kids occasionally. Frank has embraced his role as a grandfather with newfound enthusiasm, something that brings joy to the whole family. As for me, I've found myself in a place I never thought possible a few months ago. Frank and I have developed a respectful relationship. While we're not best friends, we can now enjoy family gatherings without tension. He's even started recommending my salon to his golf buddies' wives, which has brought in a new clientele. Last week, we had a big family dinner to celebrate the opening of my second salon location. Frank stood up and made a toast that brought tears to my eyes. He publicly apologized for his past behavior, acknowledged the hurt he had caused, and expressed how proud he was of my success. He thanked me for giving him a second chance and for making Tom happy. It was a moment of vulnerability I never expected to see from him. Tom has been my rock throughout this entire journey. He supported me unconditionally while also working on his relationship with his father. Seeing him happy and relaxed around his family again has made all the difficult times worth it. The whole experience has taught me a lot about forgiveness, growth, and the complexity of family dynamics. It wasn't easy, and there were times when I wanted to give up, but I'm glad we persevered. I know that life isn't a fairy tale, and we may face challenges in the future. Frank's change seems genuine, but only time will tell if it's permanent. However, I'm cautiously optimistic about our future as a family. My business is thriving, my marriage is stronger than ever, and I feel like I've gained a real family, not just in-laws. It's not perfect, but it's real, and it's ours. Thank you all for following this journey with me. Your support and advice have been invaluable. While I don't foresee needing to post any more updates, know that I'm grateful for this community and the role you've played in helping me navigate this situation. Here's to second chances, personal growth, and the power of forgiveness, when it's earned and sincere.